What's going on, hockey fans? A huge day in USPHL Nation, the Premier, the Elite, the National Championships in Utica, New York. It is time for hockey, and it's time for cup hunting season. That's what we're looking for, that Premier trophy, that Elite trophy. I can guarantee everyone around USPHL Nation one bit of news. A new winner will be crowned in both the Elite and Premier. For the Elite, this continues a streak of no one in the history of the division winning back-to-back national titles. The Premier, it has seen back-to-back national title winners, the Hampton Roads Whalers being one of those. But this season, the Rockets Hockey Club eliminated by the Aviators. We will talk about it all. We will talk about the national championships. But first, I have to introduce in a few people. It's our super broadcast team. Let's start with my right-hand man, okay? Let's start with my consigliere. Let's start. This guy's he's mon frere from another mare. If I could speak another language, I'd say brother from another mother in another way, but I can't. Lucas Jones, welcome in. The booth's a little crowded today.
Little crowded. We're not quite in Hollywood Squares territory. I don't know who the Gilbert Gottfried
Shotgun
of
Bruce,
this podcast.
Bruce Valanche. I'm Bruce
Yeah, you're
Valanche.
definitely Bruce
Oh,
Valanche. I don't know who Gilbert Gottfried is because everyone here actually has a pretty decent voice. Matt Prieur volunteering, of course. But there is a lot of talent here, and there's a lot of talent that's going to be featured at Nationals. So if some of these faces on the show are new to you, you're at least going to learn the voices if your team is going to be in Utica.
and those voices. Here's the thing, Lucas. In broadcasting, you never know who's got to get top billing and who's got to be the end person. I always see those movie credits, and you see they go through all the names of everyone in the movie, and then they go end Jack Nicholson, and you just know somewhere there was an agent saying you got to put a little end in the middle there to let them know Jack Nicholson's important. But I'm gonna pick out of a hat. I'm gonna go this guy. This guy's pretty special. I kind of like we did like a life swap. He went north, I went south to Florida. Okay, I've been at Wesley Chapel's rink a ton. He left behind some clothes. I try to wear them. I try to get into his essence, get into his mind, and be a more professional broadcaster every chance I get. This guy's going to be on Premier Broadcast all tournament long. The one, the only, Tyler Davey. Tyler, what's going on?
I kind of regret that life swap when I look outside. It's currently 32 degrees. It's been raining for 18 hours, and you're going to play golf later today. So yeah, I have those moments where I regret it, but Dan's so happy to be here. Lucas, March is the best month of the year. We're getting March Madness ready this week. I cannot wait to be in Utica. Back-to-back weekends. We go March Madness, then we go USPHL Madness. I cannot wait.
Yeah, and Tyler, we shouldn't make wishes by fountains anymore. Okay, that's the big thing. So if there's a fountain in Utica, maybe we can wish it back. We can roll reverse it. But I'm gonna grip tightly to Florida. It's pretty nice down here.
Oh, of course. I mean, golf, every single intersection. I've been down a couple times for a couple of weddings, and those days I miss it. Don't you worry.
We got Florida weather, but we've got another man who knows the cold pretty well. This guy, he's a NASCAR guy. He'll be at the dirt track of Bristol this season. It seems like the messiest job trying to put those dirt tracks together in Bristol. And then you got to race a real race later. This guy, it's like negative 75 degrees. He's doing snowmobile racing up there in is that the Upper Peninsula? He'll answer this in a second. He's not introduced in yet. You're like Beetlejuice. Until I say your name 3 times, you can't come in. It is the one, the only. This guy is a fixture at Nationals. He will be on the call again all tournament long. He's got 2 of his teams coming to Nationals after a big Game 3 win. Matt Prieur. He can come into the room now. How we
I
doing?
appreciate it. How we did, man. I appreciate it. Again, such an honor and a privilege to be a part of the USPHL Nationals for the 4th year in a row. I sincerely thank you guys. Looking forward to working with all of you. Especially my pseudo roomie there, Tyler Davey. Down in Tampa. But Dan and Lucas, real privilege to be a part of it. And yeah, it's going to be a pretty busy USPHL Nationals with 2 teams going after one premier title.
Yeah, you both have 4 game broadcasts on day one of the tournament, and you'll just keep calling games the rest of the way. We're going to have a lot of hot water, a lot of tea, a lot of lemon, a lot of honey. It's going to be a lot of vocal care, guys. You know, you got to take care of yourself, kings out there. You got to take care of yourselves. And we are going to take care of you now. We've waited enough. We've had enough pageantry, enough conversation. We can get down to business. We're going to go around the country one division at a time, revealing the schedules in the first and second day of the tournament. We remind you of the format. This season, 18 teams are coming to nationals. Dan, how are we going to do the pool play we always do? We're not. That's the answer. Dan Kay, along with the Nationals Committee, headed by Frank Scarpacci of the Florida Eels, got down to work. This was voted in unanimously by the coaches of the USPHL. A new model, a seeding round is how we start. Each team has been given 2 games based off of cross-divisional success of their division in its entirety. That's how they were ranked. They were then given an opponent. Those opponents had 2 stipulations. One, they couldn't be the 2 geographically closest divisions, aka the Great Lakes can't play the Midwest West and Midwest East in the first 2 days. Only the first 2 days. After that, free game. Metro could play the Metro Jets development program on day 3. Toledo could play Metro. You could see 2 teams from the Mountain playing each other on day 3 in the round of 16. It is up for grabs at that point. Your other stipulation, if you are the top qualifying team from your division, you serve as a 1 seed, meaning your 2 games can only be against 2 seeds in the tournament. If you were the second best qualifying team from your division, you're a 2 seed. You can only play 1 seeds in the tournament. A little bonus for the teams that fared well in their division. In the Northwest and Pacific, each of those divisions only sending 1 team traveling the furthest. The Pacific will serve as that division's number 1. The Northwest Division champion, the Vernal Oilers, will serve as the number 2. That's it. That's everything you need to know. Let's start with New England. We'll start in the top right. We'll start top right of the country. We'll go down. We'll go back up. We'll go out. And we'll come around again. The only league in the world going from San Diego to Seattle, Southern Florida, up to Maine, the USPHL. Gentlemen, are we ready?
Start our engines.
That you stole it. I was about to give that to Matt. We're already having trouble, so guys. Tyler, he's the NASCAR guy. We got to let him say start your engines, but you know what? We'll start him anyway. Should have got Kevin James. Should have gotten Kevin James. Let's go. New England division. We start with the number 1 seed in the New England, the Northern Cyclones. This team, a stellar season all year long. They'll start 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on day 1 against the Tampa Bay Juniors, the number 2 from Florida. That's day 1. Day 2 for the Cyclones, they'll see Matt Prieur's Metro Jets development program. The Northern Cyclones getting the Dan K Show broadcast team treatment. Tyler Davey, former Tampa Bay Junior broadcaster, his squad will take on Northern, followed by Matt Prieur's Metro Jets development program. That is your 1 seed. Your 2 seed, the Islanders Hockey Club. They will take on at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time one of the most dangerous teams in the tournament, the number 1 seeded Toledo Cherokee, number 3 overall in the power rankings of the Dan K Show to close the season out. They served as number 1 overall in the nation twice. We go to number 2, day 2 game for this for this Islanders Hockey Club side. They will take on at 1:30 p.m. Eastern the Florida Eels. You want to talk about a tough schedule? IHC might have one of, if not the toughest in the tournament. The number 1 in the Dan K Show Power Rankings, Florida Eels. Number 3, the Toledo Cherokee. Tyler, IHC, Northern, let's talk about
It doesn't matter if you're talking elite, premier, NCDC. This might be the year of the Northern Cyclones. I mean, what an organization, what a year the Flanagan family is having up in Hudson. And the Islanders Hockey Club, they tried to trim the gap as the season progressed, but this was Northern's division the whole way. 36-7-1. That's 8th best in the league. When you think of the Cyclones, you think defense, depth, a little bit of tenacity, 90 goals against in 44 games. I mean, that's tied 4th in the league. Penalty kill north of 85%. You include the playoffs, they've won 12 of 15. Little bit of a scare against Bridgewater in game 1 of round 2. But what I like about the New England playoffs, it's not just the one round to get in. You have to play 2 rounds, 2 separate opponents, best 2 out of 3. You really test yourself there. And Carl Fredrickson, he really rose to the top in the playoffs. 10 points in 5 games. This is a balanced team that has 11 players with 20-plus points. Great goaltending. You just look up and down the Cyclones roster. You can't find a hole. And this will be my Tampa mention. Shout out to Spencer Craig, former Tampa Bay junior, committing to MCLA, Mass College of Liberal Arts, bringing their hockey program back. Congratulations to him. Great year for the Cyclones.
Yeah, and you look at this Cyclones team, Lucas, it's a squad that's led by none other than Billy Dubs. And this guy does nothing but get dubs. At one point in time, this guy stopped doing interviews with the Dan K show on the bench because he was 0-11 in Dan K called games. He said we were a mush, we were a problem. We fell in love again. We fell back in love. Since we fell back in love with Billy Dubs, he is 10-2 in Dan K show called games. Are we a curse? Are we a jinx? What are we, Lucas?
I mean, we're still trying to figure that out. But I think for Bill Dubs, I mean, he does have a team with tenacity. I think it's a really good way to kind of describe it. You know, you can they're a team that matches up really well against a lot of different squads. I think it's in large part due to their defense and how good their defense is. And for Islanders Hockey Club, I mean, you got to imagine that they're looking at the schedule that's coming up, and I would normally say a team is a little intimidated, but we know better with Islanders Hockey Club. They're looking for a challenge.
Yeah, and Tyler, this IHC team led by Jay Punske, here's the crazy stat with Jay Punske. Okay, 4 years ago, this man took over at IHC at both the elite and premier levels as head coach. Since taking over, he has made nationals every single year at both levels of the program. On top of that, the 2 seasons prior to that, he was the coach of the Bridgewater Junior Bandits. He also went to nationals with the program both years, 6 consecutive years. This IHC team, really tough schedule ahead of them, but they tend to be nationals monsters.
They really tried to trim the gap, like I mentioned, the Northern Cyclones. They finished the regular season 14 unbeaten in regulation, including the playoffs. Are now 16-0-2 in their last 18. And let's face it, you mentioned the schedule. They need to take that momentum into nationals, and I think that's really the beauty of it. You have 44 games. Try and get that 1 seed. If you're not there, it might be a little bit of a gauntlet, but this is an Islanders team that is more than capable. We mentioned the Northern Cyclones allowing 90 goals, exact same number for the Islanders Hockey Club. Defense. They possess maybe a deeper offense, a plus 100 goal differential, 13th best in the league. You don't find any blemishes. Power play almost at 30%, 3rd best in the league. The penalty kill is up there. And how about this for scoring depth? Of the 4 playoff games where they swept the Advantage and Junior Bruins, 4 games, 13 different goal scorers. They don't just rely on one line, one guy. Everyone really carries the load. Like we mentioned with the Cyclones, 11 players with 20 plus points. Another deep team. New England stacked. And the Islanders, they actually beat the Cyclones the last 2 times they've played head to head.
And they could see each other in that round of 16. Let's move on. Let's go a little bit south. Let's get on I-95. I want to just bring this up, Lucas. I want to bring up a gripe that I know I have and you have as well. Anybody who calls a cup game or a rivalry the battle of an interstate, I want you to understand they're interstate highways. They go everywhere. It's not your highway. When you say it's like the battle of I-95, next season, Lucas and I are going to be doing an unofficial cup series called the Battle of I-95, where any team within 10 miles of I-95, records against one another, the best winning percentage on I-95 is going to win a cup that's going to look exactly like I-95, the interstate. Stop calling your cup games interstate games. Go for like this Battle of the Space Corn like we had this year. We had the Cali Cup. Make them fun. Make them interesting. Let's go to the Mid-Atlantic. We start at Mid-Atlantic number 1. The New York Aviators, by winning percentage, were the regular season champions. The best winning percentage in the USPHL this season at the premier level, 38-5-1. This team is the real Deal. I call them the greatest show on ice. They are offense first, and they kick off their tourney as the number 1 seed at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, day 1. Tyler Davey on your call, kicking the event off in Utica, New York. They're taking on the Northwest champions, the Vernal Oilers. That might be Utah's dinosaur land, but New York Aviators are playing new age hockey. It's like the chrome of hockey right there. It's like that SpongeBob episode where they accidentally go to the future. Number 2 game for this New York Aviators side. Guess what? They're playing a guy in this room's Metro Jets at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. They're first out of the tee box on both days of this tournament playing the early schedule. They're getting the Metro Jets. They're getting Vernal. Metro, not much of a 2 seed. That feels a little bit more like a 1 right there. Tough schedule for the Aviators. Let's go to our 2 seed in this Mid-Atlantic division, the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Knights. If the Aviators got the early schedule, the Knights are playing the prime times, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time against the Midwest East Division champs, the Fort Wayne Spacemen on day 1. They'll come back day 2, and they'll play the number 1 from the Midwest West, the Hudson Havoc. Let's start, first of all, Lucas. What do we take out of this? What are some of your notes from this Mid-Atlantic division?
Well, I think the first note is that for the New York Aviators, right, the reason that they were so dominant throughout the season and throughout the playoffs is their offense. And that's a familiar story for a lot of people who follow Aviator hockey. We know their offense is high-flying. We know they score a lot of goals. They are the anti-Lucas Jones hockey. If I love a 1-0 hockey game, the Aviators, they're probably not going to give you that, right? A plus 20 goal differential in the playoffs. But the big story has actually been the defense. The defense this year has been better than it has been in previous years. I think that's been the difference maker. They have a plus 20 goal differential in those divisional playoffs. That's huge. In 4 games, you gave up 13 goals, right? And for other teams, that might be something, well, you think that's a little high. But when you score 33 goals in that same stretch against really good teams, right, that shows you that the Aviators are ready to put the puck in the back of the net. And if you think you can shut them down defensively, you might want to take a second look at it.
Yeah, and Mike Stanaway is aware of the rule I have with him. If I'm ever on a call, I've seen him go in the 5-on-3, empty net. He'll go 6-on-3 against you to ensure he puts the puck home at any point. Don't go down 5-on-3 against the New York Aviators. They will make you pay. This team might just be a favorite. If I was going to be the bookmaker of Nationals, I would tell you they'd be towards the favorite line with their schedule, with their road. Matt, though, they're going to have to play the Metro Jets. You're going to be on that call. I'm sure you've been looking at that matchup kind of leading up to this thing. Metro versus the Aviators. What do you think that game looks like?
It's arguably the game of the seeding round between the New York Aviators and the Metro Jets. It'll be the second ever meeting between the two clubs. They haven't seen each other since January 3rd of 2020. So it's been a while since the two teams have seen each other. Well, the Metro Jets, they're not real thrilled with being a number 2 seed. If they're used to the number 1 seed. But again, it's going to be the game of the seeding tournament. In my opinion, New York Aviators and Metro Jets, it's going to be a lot of fun to call.
Yeah, the Metro Jets, I mean, they were in Pool A last year that felt like they were serving as a 2 seed. That was one of the toughest pools in the entire tournament. They're going to have to deal with the Aviators. You look at this Wilkes-Barre Scranton Knights team and an interesting schedule. 2 real different teams that they're going to play. First, you kick off with a Fort Wayne Spacemen team that is offense, scoring, and the main man, Noah Main. He is one of the most talented skaters in the country. That Spaceman team will be an interesting matchup. On day 2 with the Dan K Show on the call, they'll be taking on the Hudson Havoc. And Lucas, this Havoc team, they're looking for an answer back to what happened last year. They came to Nationals. They felt they were going to get out of their division. They wound up in a division with a semifinalist in the Florida Eels and your national champion in the Rockets Hockey Club. They're back with a vengeance.
Yeah, well, I think for Wilkes-Barre, you look at your opponents, and Fort Wayne, obviously a very dynamic team, very solid in net. They've got good goal scorers. They've got depth there as well. And they're facing off against a Hudson Havoc team that the refrain at the end of last year was, we've seen it, we get it now. We know the speed, we know the intensity, we know the physicality, and we're going to be ready for it. And they've spent all season getting ready for it. But for Wilkes-Barre, they've been a wagon. They were a wagon this season. They were a wagon in the divisional playoffs. Aiden Darlington in 5 divisional playoff games, 9 points, 3 goals, 6 assists. And you think you have a leading scorer there, and you think, well, I only have to shut down one guy. But you look at the guys who got points throughout the divisional playoffs, you have 19 guys with a point in 5 games. So there's not really anyone that you can try to stop. And if you get past all them, you still got to deal with netminders.
Yeah, and Lucas, I do want to let you know that our DMs have been filled with the Wilkes wagon thanking Dan K for believing in them all season long and telling you they don't need you. So no need to talk about Wilkes for you.
That's
Put
fine.
you
Nobody
on
actually needs me. That's the thing.
Oh, that is very untrue. Gentlemen, in case you didn't know, Lucas will be engineering nationals. So we definitely need Lucas. The three of us on this call that aren't Lucas will have a lot of trouble doing our job. We'll be working megaphone only instead of on a broadcast. And speaking of megaphone, you could yell out of a megaphone about this next division we're going to go to. We're going to head a little further south down I-95 to the Southeast Division, the division with the most championship titles in Premier history. The Charlotte Rush, the Hampton Roads Whalers. It felt like for years it was back and forth between the two of them. This season, it was rush hour in the Southeast. The Charlotte Rush, the #1 seed, a little bit of a scare going to 3 games in that playoff series with the Carolina Junior Canes, but they come in as the #1. On day 1, 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Tyler Davey on the call, taking on the Moose. Antlers up, could be antlers down if the Rush have a good day on that one. Bro Bronison and his Minnesota Moose are going to have a tall task taking on the Charlotte Rush. The second game for the Rush on day 2, the Dan K Show on the call. We can't tell you who they're playing yet. The Mountain Division has to be so difficult, right? They're playing a division championship series coming up this weekend between the Utah Outliers and Ogden Mustangs. The loser of that series gets the prize of playing the Rush. Have fun. You know, you might want to win the division championship because this Rush team is rolling right now. So that's either the Ogden Mustangs or Utah Outliers in game 2 for Charlotte. The 2 seed in the Southeast, don't call it an upset. I went on Twitter, I put, you like that? Because RC Like and his Richmond Generals upset the Potomac Patriots, who had a stellar season under Coach Josh Gratton, who is just an absolute beautician. 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, day 1, Richmond will take on the winner of Utah versus Ogden. So you can see that Utah-Ogden game, you get to decide, do I want to play Richmond? Do I want to play Charlotte? Dan K, I'd rather play neither. We go to game 2 for the Richmond Generals. They play the final game of the seeding round. They will play a game with their sights set securely on what is on the line with the Fort Wayne Spacemen, the winners of the Midwest East. Lucas, this division, I mean, whose schedule would you rather have? They both are tough.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I'd probably rather have neither at this point, right? I don't want to get involved. I don't want to get involved with the Southeast at all. I don't want to get involved with the Southeast opponents at all, right? These are tough teams. It does get to another level when you get to nationals. I think for both Charlotte and Richmond, you look no farther than these divisional playoffs, right? You go back, you always want to scout a team against their best, most recent opponents, right? And luckily they had to play the Carolina Junior Canes and the Potomac Patriots, right? 2 of the toughest teams through this season. And let's kind of call it here. They had such a low goal differential. There was not a ton of offense. There was a lot of good defense, very physical, right? These were very close games that were kind of hanging in the balance, a very close series overall. I think the biggest thing you have to watch out for if you're one of these 2 Southeast teams is you have to watch out for kind of getting baited into not playing your game, right? We know these 2 teams play with a lot of passion. They play a very strong style, but they're also ready to go, right, in certain situations. So I think especially when you get tied up, especially with the Mountain Division, you have to be disciplined. You have to make sure that you match the physicality that another team brings you, but that you don't leave this kind of Showtime style that the Southeast is known for.
Yeah, and you look at this Southeast Division right now. You look at Charlotte, you look at Richmond. You wouldn't be surprised if either won a championship, right? But
No.
last season, the Southeast did not fare well. The semifinals for the first time since the Southeast joined the division. No representation in the semifinals. Charlotte was eliminated in that quarterfinal round by the Florida Eels. You look at this season, you look at this Southeast division, and you feel like, it was always the Red Sox and Yankees when it came to Hampton Roads and Charlotte, right? And you were trying to pick who's who in that battle. Richmond kind of came in like this Toronto Blue Jays side into this AL East and said, hey, we got to start battling. Potomac this season, a little Baltimore Orioles action out of these boys, right? A little bit of that. And now all of a sudden you got some Tampa Bay Rays action going on when you talk about Nashville, when you talk about the rest of this division, the Carolina Junior Canes. This feels very AL Eastian. Tyler, I see you know a little AL East baseball. It feels a little bit like it.
Yeah, what also came to mind just right away when you think of the Southeast, this is SEC West football. This is Big 12 basketball. This is a playoff schedule from September until March. Every single game is a gauntlet in the Southeast. There are, with Nashville now, 6 really good teams. And Nashville just outside of the mix. Really, you have to keep that level all year in the Southeast, because if you even dip for a moment, all of a sudden you're looking up at the rest of the division. It really is the golden standard when you look, especially what they're able to do at Nationals.
And when you use the word dip around the Charlotte Rush, you usually start some chants, because you remember a couple years back, Charlotte did double dip. They were the double dip champs, one in the Elite and Premier. That's your Southeast schedule. Let's go a little further south to a place that Tyler knows well, to a place that if I just knock this wall down, you could see it. It's out there. The warmth, the wonderful, the Florida division, the Flo Rida. Let's look first at the Florida Eels. They serve as the number 1 seed out of this division. They were the number 1 overall team in the final Dan K Show Power Rankings. What I will tell the folks at home, 5 of 6, the Dan K Show's final number 1 in the Power Rankings in the Premier has won the national championship. The only miss, last season when the Rockets Hockey Club, the Don't Call Us Cinderella Rockets Hockey Club, won the national championship. Will Dan K and Lucas Jones go 5 for 7? Or will the Eels prove us right? They start 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time against the Metro Jets Development Program, serving as the number 2 out of the Midwest East Division, MJDP, the final team to qualify for nationals. Matt Prieur was on that call and waiting with bated breath to see if his squad would make it in. Next up on day 2 for the Florida Eels, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Tyler Davey on the call. The Florida Eels taking on the Islanders Hockey Club. We unveiled half of that schedule already, but we'll talk about it in a moment. Let's go to Tampa first. The Tampa Bay Juniors, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, taking on the Northern Cyclones and Bill Dubs, a tough number 1 seed to take on for Tampa. And then this is my favorite part of Nationals. The day 2 matchup with Tyler Davey on the call, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You feel like you want to have the night game on day 2 because you want to see what you need in front of you. You want to have all the information, and you're certainly going to have it. Tampa Bay Juniors taking on the Vegas Thunderbirds. It's Sin City against the Sunshine State. Tyler Davey, break down Florida.
We'll start with the Eels, and it's offense, offense, offense. 254 goals this year. That's almost 6 goals per game. They're 8th in the league, a plus 152 goal differential, so they have that support on the back end as well. That's tied 3rd in the league. It's 36-6-2. They won this Florida division by 22 points. It was already kind of settled in October where the Eels were going to be. The power play numbers are up there just under 30%. And I was joking with Frank Scarpacci when I saw him at the Florida Showcase. The Florida Eels, from a broadcaster standpoint, might be one of the easier teams to prep for, because you can go a couple years without seeing a game, and you know that 26 is Easton Moore and 29 is Colin Patterson. Just the player development, the player retention, and those 2 guys I mentioned, the leading scorers, 70 points apiece, great goaltending, 12 goals in 2 playoff games against Palm Beach. And the biggest thing you would wonder about is if this team's been on cruise control. That's not the case. With the coaching they have, they're going to stay committed. They've won 16 straight, and they've also proven it. I mean, we were at that Florida Showcase, Florida against Toledo. Yes, a game that was really littered with penalties, but the Florida Eels won 6-3. It was really a one-sided game, and that was a matchup against 2 of the top teams in the power rankings, and they really dominated.
Yeah, and you look at this Florida Eels side, Damon Kiwasu is a guy I've been shouting about for years as well. Kiwi is what he's known as. he feels like Carl Hagelin. He stretches the game when he gets loose behind you. He puts a lot of stress on your power play, puts a lot of stress on your unit to really your D pair has to keep an eye on him when he's out there because he'll split the defense once a game. And he's 50-50 when he gets loose. He's putting that puck home half the time. He's a dangerous player. He's not a guy that's going to lead you on the score sheet every night, but he makes the little plays happen that change a game. In net, the big man, Duncan Rollman, you look at the size of the big guy in net. You look at Alexander Caron, you lose Alexander the Great. What do? We just lost a 6'6" tall goaltender. What are we going to do? I don't know. Replace him with a 6'6" tall goaltender. Like what, Lucas? Good luck interviewing him, man. We're going to get you a soapbox.
Yeah, I will be bringing an Apple box just in case. Probably my least favorite rule in the Dan K show is being forced to interview every player above 6'6".
That is the rule, guys. Just in case you didn't know that.
Yeah, I will be getting probably one of those like Price is Right microphones with a really long handle. That's probably my best bet.
Yeah, good luck with that. And you look at the Tampa Bay side, Tyler. This is a team you know pretty well.
Absolutely. And you just look at the statistics this year, nothing is really going to jump out of the page at you. 25, 18, and 1. They were third in the Florida division, kind of an upset against Atlanta, who was the 2 seed. But I think all that lacks a little bit of context. This has been a completely different Tampa Bay team in the second half of the season. Ever since Jonah Mortensen came back, he was playing with Twin City, NCDC. He's back in the top 6, supplements that offense, 27 points in 21 games. It's just a new look Tampa team. It started at the Florida Showcase. They go 5-0-0 in Wesley Chapel in their home rink. They've won 10 of the last 12, and in the year 2023, they're 13-4. This is a team that's really found themselves. They were trying to get some new guys activated in the back end. They brought both goalies back. It's a deep team, and you guys know this too. Any Garrett Stroh team, it's a professional brand of hockey. It's not going to be a gong show. It's very disciplined. And that Northern Cyclones matchup, it's a sneaky good game. Every game that Tampa plays, they're in it. Even if they're physically outmatched on paper, it'll be a 3-2, 2-1 low-scoring game. They know the style they like to play, and it all comes down to coaching.
Yeah, and like Philip Kuba and I is very similar levels of athlete. Like we both get it too.
Exactly.
You know, it's he and I. We look at each other. We always see each other. Go, hey man, back to our old Chell days, Lucas. What was it again? Our combined point totals was somewhere over 100 between Coobs and I.
I think it's actually a lot higher than that. I think we looked it up one time and we realized that you'd been severely undercounting your NHL points.
I know I overcounted him last time, and he thanked me for it. But I do want to also say I'm going golfing today with Garrett Strode and Judd Ginther, and this might get chopped up and edited a little differently depending on how Judd plays. Apparently, he's a Minnesota State high school champion in golf, so Judd Ginther might wipe the floor with Dan K today on the golf course, and we might turn this into just Dan K speaking over Tyler, inserting like Tampa will lose, Tampa is bad.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the state of Minnesota because you can't talk about the Tampa Bay Juniors without Minnesota. Obviously, it comes from the Stroats, Brett and Garrett. You just look, Nelson, Bugan, Ginther, Cornier, Wiesjan, Studebaker, up and down the lineup, Minnesota products. It's hockey haven to hockey heaven down in Florida. Those are 2-year guys. They didn't really need much convincing to stay down in Tampa. And then also you talk about progression. You have 4 guys that were on Tampa's 2020-21 elite team that have made their way, climbed the ladder now in Prieur. Jake Duhaime, Jack Flair, Bryson Urig, and Tyler Cullen. So that's an organization, just like the Eels, that's great with player retention year over year.
Yeah, Jake Duhaime can do harm to the other side of opponents here. We look now to the Great Lakes. Let's go north. This is going to be a Matt Prieur show right here. We start with the Toledo Cherokee and Holy Toledo. New York Aviators might have had the best winning percentage and won the regular season, but the Toledo Cherokee were hot on their tails. They play IHC, the Islanders Hockey Club, at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on day 1 of Nationals. Day 2, they'll take on the Northwest champion Vernal Oilers from the dinosaur land of Utah. They'll take on the Toledo Cherokee. We go to a side Matt Prieur knows very well. The Metro Jets serving as a 2 seed from the Great Lakes. That is new territory for Metro. The boys from Michigan can take a Michigander at their first team, the Las Vegas Thunderbirds, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Metro Jets versus Vegas Thunderbirds. They'll pull the arm on the slot there and see what the score turns out as. Day 2, it's the dogfight, we're calling it. 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, the dogfight, the Metro Jets taking on the New York Aviators. It's an all-aviation battle. And, Matt, I know you were talking to me via text about this. Let's talk Jets, Aviators. Let's talk Metro first, and then we'll get to Toledo.
Absolutely. Metro Jets in unfamiliar territory, as you mentioned, being the number 2 seed out of the Great Lakes Division. And the games they got, the Las Vegas Thunderbirds is going to be a very interesting game. You know, with the Thunderbirds coming off the upset win over the Fresno Monsters in the Pacific Division. But yeah, that Aviators game is going to be, like I said, arguably the game of the seeding round. The Metro Jets, we all know they're loaded from top to bottom, and it all starts between the pipes. Freddie Soderberg in goal, who had a spectacular USPHL Nationals last season for MJDP. He is the de facto number 1 goaltender for the Jets, but he's got a couple pretty good players, pretty good solid backups behind him, and Rocco Stoles and Dylan Eliason. Eliason spending some time in the NCDC as well as the NAHL, and Rocco Stoles was almost robotic until he got to the Tampa Showcase, and finally he came down to human standards, if you will, between the pipes. But yeah, Freddie Soderberg he's a de facto number 1 goaltender. He's going to hopefully to do very well. He'd like to get a win at the Nationals. He went 0-3 last year with DP. Now he's with the big team, and he's looking to carry them back to, you know, where they were last year, to the national championship game, hoping on a different result. You start with the defense. You go with the defense. Arguably the best defensive pairing in the USPHL, Josh German and Dakota Cott. They are 2 standout defensemen. Both players aging out at the end of this Nationals. They love nothing more than to end their junior career with a USPHL National Championship. Of course, you got Devin Mastay. You've got the veteran Bryce O'Rourke, just who's intimidating back there on the blue line in the series against the Columbus Mavericks. Mavericks trying to throw the body a little bit. They got the Bryce O'Rourke, and it's kind of like bounced off a little bit. It was one of those things, you know. And oh, by the way, offense. The Metro Jets are loaded. Alex Schomburger, the all-time scoring leader in franchise history, dating back to the 89-90 season of the old Central States Development Hockey League. That's a huge accomplishment for Alex Schomburger. And you keep on going. Chad Nato, who's been spectacular, the leading scorer in the playoffs against the Columbus Mavericks. And the Jets, as they've always done, they roll 4 lines at you, 3 sets of defensemen. They're going to be awfully tough. And at a number 2 seed, they may have just a little bit of a chip on their shoulder.
Yeah, you got the big old jet airliner too, and Stephen Miller on this side. This guy doesn't need the whole bandwidth and to get the job done. But Dakota Cott, Matt, I think that's the difference maker for me. He might be my favorite defenseman to watch in the country. He's just a must-see guy on the blue line. He's so calm on the puck. He never makes the wrong decision. And that's what you want at the blue line. And when you play a team like the Aviators, a team that's going to play that high pressure, they're going to come at you in your own zone. They're going to be relentless. They're not going to be afraid to make you make a decision on the back end here. Dakota Cott's the guy I want on the puck in those situations. And he's going to deal with a lot of those situations on day 2.
He's one of the better defensemen in the league, but he can also score as well. Had one of the prettiest goals of the season last Saturday night in Columbus in that series clinching game. And the thing is, with the Metro Jets, if you want to run and gun with the Jets, they can go with that. If you want to play finesse, they can do that. You want to play physical, they can do that. If you want to have a suffocating defensive struggle, Jets can do that too. They're a solid number 2 seed for sure.
We look at the number 1 seed, this Toledo Cherokee team, Matt. The Metro Jets and Toledo saw each other a lot this year. The most controversial cup game in Dan K Show history. So, for the folks at home this season, we played the first ever Coney Cup. As the players coined it, the battle for the Glizzy. And the Glizzy was an actual hot dog trophy, a full-on, realistic, lifelike hot dog trophy that the Dan K Show was able to get from their hot dog trophy guy. Yup, I got one. And we brought the hot dog trophy out. We also bought about 20 packs of hot dogs. I asked for them to be put in a water jug so we could dump them on the winning coach. Mr. Naaman up there in Metroland said, I think he thought I wanted hot water. So we created some real problems in Metro. We apologize to Coach Quenville for having to throw out the water jug. And we also apologize to Coach Kenny Miller, who had to take the glizzy bath at the end of the game and get dumped with glizzies on the ice. I've never seen a more confused ZAM operator than the day that he watched hot dogs spill across his rink. And boys, it wound up being a tie in the Glizzy Cup. It was a 2-day aggregate score. And the worst part of it all, Dakota Cott puts in an empty netter at the buzzer, and the officiating crew has the gall to wave it off in a goal that did not affect the game at all. They wave it off, making it a 4-4 Glizzy Cup tie, with the Toledo Cherokee winning on the regular season overall record. Matt, we've heard the Glizzy Cup, but let's talk Toledo Cherokee going for a Premier National Cup.
The Toledo Cherokee accomplished a major feat this season by winning 6 of the 8 games played against the Metro Jets. The Jets won the first game of the season back in October. The second game of the season also at Mount Cummins Ice Arena. They lost in overtime. Toledo rattles off then 5 more consecutive victories before, as you mentioned, the Jets winning that last game with the final game of the Coney Cup. A major accomplishment for Toledo, their first division championship. And this team again is loaded. They have a bad taste in their mouth from last year's quarterfinals loss to said Metro Jets. And Nick Milhorn, former Metro Jet Jason Crosland, they are the number 1 and number 1A on this Cherokee squad. And they have 1 goal this year. Yeah, they're very happy with winning their first Great Lakes Division championship. They have 1 goal, and that is to be playing on March 28th. Their defense is solid. They are, as Toledo Cherokee always are, they are a physical team. But they can beat you with finesse as well. And also, they have one of the best goaltenders in the USPHL in Frank Murphy. Last season, the Cherokee rode Joey Cormier all the way to the Nationals. It's kind of the same way this year with the Cherokee, with Frank Murphy. And for the Cherokee, they're going to go as far as Frank Murphy takes them.
Yeah, and Frank Murphy, I call him America's most confident netminder. He
Yes,
comes
he
up
is.
to me, Coney Cup battle in Toledo. We're setting up for the pregame show on site. He walks into the building. He looks at me and go, Murph, how we doing today, babe? Who's in net? And he goes, who else, baby, but me? Walks on into the locker room. This kid just knows what he's doing. He's confident. He's a guy you want between the pipes in a big game. The big addition for this Toledo side, Zeth Stelmazic, is back in Toledo Nation, a huge addition. You add to him on the blue line, you can't handle David Crandall. This guy on the blue line right now, okay, last season, the All Dan K team, he was my starting defenseman. This season, he comes back halfway through the year. He's on their 3rd D pair. That's how deep this Toledo side is. They've got the defenseman of the year in my mind from last season, skating on a 3rd D pair. The depth in Toledo will be dangerous. Let's go to the Midwest East. Matt did mention having a bad taste in their mouth in Toledo. It might be hot dog still from the great Kenny Miller. Midwest East, we start with the number 1 seed. Talk about cup games. The winners of the Space Corn. Yes, was the first Space Corn trophy stolen along with $3,000 worth of broadcasting gear in downtown Denver, Colorado, right in front of a Marriott Bonvoy. Yes, did the general manager of said Marriott just avoid me the entire time and then not allow the police officer that came to see their cameras, to see what might have happened? Yes, was I given free breakfast that I said, really? Really? That's what I'm getting, is a free breakfast at a Marriott, which is already free? Thank you very much for your help, Courtyard Cherry Creek in Denver, Colorado. Don't go there. I'm a Marriott Bonvoy boy, but you don't go to that one, everybody. We go to a different Marriott. The Space Corn Trophy was supposed to be a rocket ship that shot into the air in the parking lot. It turned into kind of like, looked like a scene from Super Mario Brothers, Lucas, I think, as Coach Tristan Jensen put it together. But this Spacemen team, the battle for the Space Corn champions, they're the Space Train. They will be the only team traveling the Nationals via train. 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time start on Thursday night. against the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Knights, the 2 seed from the Mid-Atlantic. Day 2, this Fort Wayne team will have the tall task of taking on the Richmond Generals in the final game of the seeding round. The number 2 seed, it's Matt Prieur's very own Metro Jets development program. They were on the ropes for a moment against Motor City, but got the job done. 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, they will take on the Florida Eels with Matt Prieur on the call, the number 1 team in the Dan K Show Power Rankings. Day 2, it doesn't get easier. They take on the number 1 from New England at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the Northern Cyclones. Matt, let's start with MJDP. That is a murderer's row of a schedule.
Yeah, MJDP, that it was a tough series against the Motor City Gamblers. You couldn't have found 2 more evenly matched programs. And MJDP, go back to the beginning of the season. They're coming into the Nationals as one of the youngest teams heading to Utica, New York. They start the season the best/worst way possible with an 11-game winning streak. And you get a bunch of young kids that come out swinging, they come out winning, they're on top of the world. But then the USPHL Detroit Showcase that they co-host with the Metro Jets didn't go so well. They went 1-3 at their own showcase they co-hosted. Over the season, they had trouble scoring goals. But then in the playoffs, MJDP found the back of the net big time. Most goals scored in the playoffs, going into the Nationals. The biggest goal differential. Yeah, it does kind of come with an asterisk. 2 of those games were against the Decatur Blaze. Sure, I'll give you that. But MJDP, they responded in the best way possible after losing a heartbreaker in game 1 to Motor City in round number 2, a 2-1 setback. They came back with a 3-1 victory on Saturday. And then game 3, MJDP took it to them. It's like Justin Kinville and Jamie Lovell set them on fire before they came out of the locker room. They come out swinging in that game 3, a 7-1 victory. And if you don't think Nationals experience means something, tell that to Ethan Smith, tell that to Nolan Bruxford, tell that to Aiden Shannon, guys that have got that Nationals experience last year, and they used it to their advantage and to MJDP's advantage over Motor City. MJDP, like with the Toledo Cherokee with Frank Murphy, MJDP is going to go as far as goaltender Taylor White takes them. He is the de facto number 1 goaltender for MJDP. He has been absolutely dynamite this season. 3rd best overall in the USPHL in the regular season in goals against average. He was the number 1 goaltender in save percentage in the regular season and tied for 2nd in shutouts during the regular season. And that's a rookie. He's like Freddie Soderbergh 2.0. And we saw what Soderbergh did last year with MJDP at the Nationals. Don't be surprised if Taylor White can. And it's a tough schedule with the Florida Eels right out of the box and Northern Cyclones. Don't be surprised one bit if Taylor White can single-handedly steal one of those games.
Yeah, and you look at this. This is not your grandpa's Midwest East this year, ladies and gents. Well, I guess not grandpa. The USPHL is pretty young. This isn't your slightly older brother's Midwest East, ladies and gentlemen, okay? This is not the Lucas to Dan K slightly older Midwest East. This is a high-flying division this year. There was some real good talent. Motor City, Lucas and I both picked them to get by MJDP. That was a battle royale. This MJDP team, in 5 postseason games, just 6 goals allowed, 110 saves made, and 116 shots faced between Muirhead and White. It'll be a fun team to watch, a real fun team to watch as well, Matt. That number 1 seed, we called him Force Wayne, which was, of course, Dan K screwing up on a broadcast, which became a hashtag and is now a thing. We are calling them the Space Train. They'll be going on the Acela train from Fort Wayne to Utica. It's gonna be a great time. This Fort Wayne team, though, it feels like they go as far as Noah Maine takes.
Fort Wayne, to me, is the sleeper team of the USPHL Nationals. They went 33-8-1-2 this year, their first Midwest East Division regular season title. And then you have the Chicago Cougars, who who've been to the USPHL Nationals the last 5 years. 2 of those years, they eliminated the Fort Wayne Spacemen in game 3 of the second round. Last year, the Spacemen were eliminated in Game 3 against MJDP. This year, the Spacemen finally making it to the promised land. They're going to the USPHL Nationals, and I'm going to give you a stat. Some of their wins this season, and you may be surprised if you didn't know this. Wins against the Toledo Cherokee, the Metro Jets, the Hudson Havoc, and the Florida Eels. All victories by the Fort Wayne Spacemen. Over 3 of those 4 teams are division champions this year during the regular season. Every one of those teams going to nationals this year. And you're right, Dan. Noah Main, to me, one of the most dynamic players in the USPHL, having the privilege of watching him for the last 2 years in the Midwest East Division. He is just exceptional to watch. He's one of those players where you catch yourself watching him and you're like, wait, I'm calling this game. Oh, okay, I got to get back in the mode here a little bit. But Noah Main is dynamite and a key addition late in the season for the Spacemen. Appeared in the final 7 games as Corbin Shable. Corbin Shable, the leading scorer for the Spacemen in the playoffs this year. He was one of the original Spacemen back in the 1920 season, along with Logan Robbins, as well as Cam Perry. He was in the 1920 season with the Spacemen, went off, played some EHL hockey a little bit. He also, NA3 playoff playing for Shable, and he come back and he has been just dynamite and a great compliment to Noah Main. And back on defense, you got the twin Quebec Towers and Thomas Turgeon and Sam Tetro. Sam Tetro, the 35-year-old junior player. If you ever look at Sam Tetro, you know why he looks like. You know why I say that. But all kidding aside, Kaylee Schrock has built this franchise from the ground up. They have suffered heartbreak. The first 3 years, getting to the second round of the Midwest East Division playoffs, going all the way to a Game 3 before losing that Game 3. But this year, they're going to be in the Nationals. They are going to be the sleeper team to watch, and they're going to give Wilkes-Barre Scranton Knights and Richmond Generals all kinds of fits in that seeding round.
Yeah, and I'm gonna give a couple notes here. 1920 season. When you said that at first, I went, "There's no way he's eligible."
Yeah, I think we all had the same thought.
He's the original Spaceman.
I don't even know he's got his hips still going for him. He's 120 years old at this point. This guy's
Right.
incredible. It's a medical marvel. Honestly, junior hockey after 80 years old, you should be allowed back in. That's a new petition from Dan K. It should be under 21 and it should be over 80. Those should be the 2 places you can play junior hockey. Also, though, on top of it, you talk about Noah Main. Noah Main, this is a guy who's a defenseman all season long. They go, you know what? The guy's scoring the puck from the blue line. He's leading the team in scoring. Let's put him at the center position. And he hasn't had a fall off at all. The guy can play forward. The guy can play defense. They'll skate him on the penalty kill as a defenseman. They'll skate him on the power play as the forward, as a centerman. Like, he'll take the draw, he'll sit back and then play defense. This kid is he does everything for him. He'll skate the most minutes in the tournament probably out of anybody if Fort Wayne goes to the title. This team is dangerous. Let's go to the Midwest West. I haven't heard Lucas talk for a little while. He's been quiet back there, like a little mouse. Lucas, if he's been quiet long enough, he's probably gotten himself a little wheel of cheese, and he's just hanging out with a glass of wine, a wheel of cheese, just gnawing away in the corner. But let's see what the Midwest West Division is going to have to gnaw on. We start with the number 1 seed, the Hudson Havoc. They don't know their opponent yet because of that pesky Mountain Division Championship coming up next weekend. They'll take on the loser between Ogden and the Utah Outliers at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We talk about games of the seeding round. This one might be one of them, Hudson versus either Ogden or Utah with Tyler Davey on the call. Day 2, the Hudson Havoc. They'll take on the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Knights, the 2 seed from the Mid-Atlantic Division. Dan K, Lucas Jones on your call, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. As the number 2 seed, we go to the Minnesota Moose, a 3 seed entering the Midwest West playoffs. They took care of business against Steele County. They got absolutely thumped in Game 1 against the Squatch, and then Squatch out. Here comes Antlers up. 2 teams that we invented hashtags for continued the battle, and the Moose made the march. Bro Bronison, coach of his squad, or Lucas, are we going John Jonason? Are we going to call him Joan Jonathan like I did on a PA mic? in Isanti, Minnesota, or are we going to go Bro Bronison? He'll take on the Charlotte Rush at 12:30 p.m. Eastern on day one, and then he'll take on the winner of the Mountain at 10 a.m. Eastern time on day two. Potentially the Utah Outliers or Ogden Mustangs. That is a schedule. Lucas, talk about it.
Yeah, the Midwest West has a pretty sizable schedule. You know, they kind of have a sneaky tough schedule. But for the Midwest West, I mean, the Minnesota Moose have the distinction here of having the most away Dan K Show broadcasts of the season, which means we've gotten to see a lot of Minnesota Moose hockey. They're a tough team, and you bring up a good point, Dan. They did get thumped by the Squatch, which I think makes their +6 goal differential in the divisional round even more impressive, right? It kind of adds a little bit of context, adds a little bit of a qualifier there. I think the Moose, they upgraded in size this year, and they struggled a little bit out of the gate, right? They upgraded in size. They had to kind of add a few pieces. They kind of had to work on a few things. And here they are coming to nationals, right? This is a team that is ready, raring to go, no matter what their schedule is. And their Midwest West brethren, the Hudson Havoc, I wouldn't want to be them either right now. Both of these teams have really tough schedules, but I think the Havoc are another team that has put together pieces. They had success in the beginning of the year and really all season long, and yet that roster did continue to change a little bit, right? They continued to add, to subtract, to move some things around. I think the Midwest West this year has a really tough schedule, B, a really good shot to show us what they're made of. But for both of these teams, it's going to be fast. It's going to be physical. You're going to have to play a full 60 minutes. And truthfully, Dan, against those opponents, I think you get one mistake a game. I think any more than one mistake with that level of competition, that might be it.
Yeah, and first of all, when we talked to Coach Bro Bronison, he was like, let me try to do my, let me see if I can get news. Okay, guys, so here's what I'm trying to tell you, okay? I went to Nationals, and I was like, man, these guys are big, okay? They're big. They're out here shredding the gnar. I got to bro up. I said, I got my brothers at the Dan K Show, and I got to bro up. I got to get bigger. So he got bigger. And that's what this Minnesota Moose team is. They're going to try to physical you up. They're going to try to slow the game down. They're going to try to make things difficult at center ice. The biggest story on Hudson's side is netminder Nicholas Pineo. Pineo comes in, former Ogden Mustang, comes into Hudson. The biggest storyline, Hudson trades their netminder for nothing, hands over their netminder to the Minnesota Squatch. Why? Well, I talked to the Hudson Havoc because it was the best situation for the young athlete. That's an awesome move. That's what junior hockey is all about. They put a guy that's the top netminder in the country statistically at the time, in Nate Gulsvig, on the Minnesota Squatch, who they're competing with for the number one seed in their division. They're still able to win that. They bring in Pineo, and Pineo's 11-0 in the regular season, wins all his games in the postseason, hasn't been beaten since joining this Hudson Havoc side. They're going to be dangerous come the postseason. Speaking of dangerous, these teams out west, we talked about not your grandpa's Midwest East. Well, it certainly ain't your grandpa's Pacific Division this year. Let's talk about the Pacific and the Northwest. Again, each getting one team in, so serves a little differently in this 1 seed, 2 seed model. The Northwest Division in their first year serving as the 2 seed. The Pacific serving as the 1. The Vegas Thunderbirds, the first team not named the Fresno Monsters to go to USPHL Nationals from this division. The Pacific still looking for its first Nationals win. Will they get it this season? 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, day one. The Thunderbirds taking on the Metro Jets. Then, day two, the Tampa Bay Juniors at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Lucas, because I'm a man of the people, that is a 1 p.m. start for the Vegas Thunderbirds. Pacific Standard Time. Yup, look at me go. And a 4 p.m. Pacific Time start against the Tampa Bay Juniors. Tyler Davey on the call on day two. Day one, it'll be Matt Prieur on your call. We go to the Northwest. Vernal Oilers. From pole to pole, this was the squad in the Northwest. They had a little scare against the Totes from Seattle. They were able to take down the Totem. They were able to punch their ticket and they've got a tough schedule ahead of them. They'll play the number 1 New York Aviators from the Mid-Atlantic on day 1 to kick off the tournament. Day 2, the guys from the land of dinosaurs in Utah will take on the Toledo Cherokee at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Gentlemen, I think we can all kind of chip away at this. We start off with that Toledo matchup. Matt, you've seen Toledo. You talked about Toledo. This Vernal Oilers team, Antonio Tarantino in net, is going to be dueling with Frank Murphy.
Yeah, the Vernal Oilers, they're going to get a true test, not only in game 1 against the New York Aviators, but especially game 2 against the Toledo Cherokee. Vernal hasn't really been very far out east this year in their inaugural season. And to me, I think they have the toughest schedule of the seeding round with the New York Aviators, the regular season champions, and then the Toledo Cherokee, the Great Lakes Division champions. It's going to be a tall order for the Vernal Oilers. I mean, the Toledo Cherokee, as we talked about in the Great Lakes preview, they are a big, physical, fast team, and not so sure that Vernal has seen the likes of a Toledo Cherokee here until the Nationals.
Yeah, and the big thing with the New York Aviators matchup for Vernal, they're so one of a kind. You always see it when you get to showcases and nationals with the New York Aviators. There are teams who have watched their tape, and there are teams who haven't. And when you haven't against Mike Stanaway and this New York Aviator team, they will run right by you. They will run you out of a rink. The big story is going to be Alex Rene Bardakovics saying au revoir to pucks all season long. He is the single season point champion in USPHL history, a 122 point season for Alex Rene Bardakovics. I think he just scored a goal. I think right now, while we're talking, one just went in the back of the net. That's how good he was. And then you add in, talk about the goaltenders that were former Ogden Mustangs. Talk about Antonio Tarantino. This guy is better than a Quentin Tarantino film, man. He is tough to deal with. Vernal's going to go as far as Tarantino takes him, in my mind. You're going to look at this team. They're going to see 40, 50 shots a night in both of those matchups, Toledo and New York. Can Tarantino stop enough pucks? Lucas, when we were in Ogden, he did. He nearly got Vernal to win on the road against Ogden with 1,100 in the crowd.
I saw something I think truly special out of the Vernal Oilers that night, right? They came in short benched because of an illness that was affecting a couple of guys on the team. And you come into that home environment and you say, it's really easy to say, oh, game's a wash, guys. We got 15 guys on the bench right now. And they took an Ogden Mustangs team to overtime and very nearly beat them. I think for Vernal, Tarantino, going to be huge, right? Because it's going to free up those 5 guys in front to run and gun. If you can keep your lines rolling, make sure no one gets burned out, you can utilize some of that depth. And if you can control the puck, you're not going to be able to make any turnovers. We talk about not having a very thin margin of error in the Midwest West. I think the Vernal Oilers are along the same lines. You can't turn the puck over, but if you can hold on to the puck and you can run and gun and you can play with zero fear, I think this is an Oilers team that could give these quote-unquote powerhouses a little bit of trouble. I've seen really, really good things from this Vernal squad.
And then we go to the Las Vegas Thunderbirds. Was Stan Kay sent a video from the locker room after picking against Vegas in the Fresno series from the great Narek Alexander?
And in the first season and the first series.
Both times.
Both series.
Was he chirped pretty heavily by the Vegas Thunderbirds? Yes. Does he have a security detail just in case there's an old school De Niro type mobster from Vegas waiting to break his kneecaps when they get to Utica, New York? Of course. And that security guard is Lucas Jones. Best of luck, Lucas. Use that low center of gravity, shoot for the legs, and I'll run away. Please keep me safe. But you want to talk about Alex Rene Bardakovics with the Vernal Oilers? It's Tristan Felix Tremblay, the men with 3 names, so nice they named him thrice, who had a 4-goal performance in a win in overtime against the Fresno Monsters. They were on the ropes. They were trailing. They marched back in, and Tremblay with the Quattro to get the W for Vegas. They play enough defense to win games. Narek Alexanian, a guy who's on that all-time single-season point leader list. You look at this team, Lucas, it feels like they're going to be a tough Pacific side to deal with.
I have watched a lot of Thunderbirds hockey. I will continue to be watching a lot of Thunderbirds hockey from positions around the Nationals venue. That 14 guys with a point in the divisional playoffs, and I think for them it does come down to the defense. Can the defensemen not so much score, because they can score, right? We've seen them do it. Tristan Nelson, Nicholas Benaldi, the rest of the decor there, we know they can get it done. But I think here is a situation where you need them to be locked down on the other end. You let the forwards go to work, right? Tremblay, Alexandrian, Turigny, let those guys go to work. Play lockdown on the other end, be crisp with the passing. The Thunderbirds too. I mean, they like you said, the first time a team not named the Fresno Monsters is here, and I think this Thunderbirds team certainly is a monster.
Yeah, and you look at this Thunderbirds side, going to play the Tampa Bay Juniors, a team that'll kind of battle with them there through and through. It's going to be a fun Nationals. We got one more group to talk about. In this group, we can't tell you exactly what their schedule is, but we can tell you what's in front of them. Friday and Saturday for sure. Sunday, if necessary, the Ogden Mustangs will take on the Utah Outliers in a battle for divisional supremacy. The winner of that battle will be the 1 seed in the Mountain. That 1 seed schedule will look as follows. At 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, they will take on the 2 from the Southeast, the Richmond Generals. On day 2, they kick things off at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, an early local start for those boys. They'll take on the Minnesota Moose with Tyler Davey on the call. We go to the 2 seed, the loser of this weekend's matchup. They will get the credit of taking on the Hudson Havoc. That is not a fun consolation prize in the division at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on day 1. Day 2, they will take on the Charlotte Rush with the Dan K Show on the call at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We start with the Ogden Mustangs. This is a team that gets between 1,000 to 1,800 a night. This is a team that was selling Dan K Show autographs when we went out there. This is a team that had Ole Kolzig buying remastered sleep water bottles on the Dan K Show's dime right there. This is a team that has the most power play goals scored in league history this season. This is a potent power play unit, and this is also a team, Lucas, with Jake Murray, the all-time points leader in USPHL history, who did not have to score a goal to get by Pueblo and get to Nationals. Just 4 assists for him. Didn't score once, but this guy, Jake the Snake, is special. Ogden is going to be a tough out for anybody who plays.
For Nationals, you need good net minding, right? Ideally, you'd want 2 net minders who can kind of cycle in and out. But really what you need is depth. You need the ability for your star, Jake Murray, to not have to get involved on the offensive end and still win tough series and still make it to Nationals, right? Because everyone's going to be looking for the edge, and there's a target on a couple guys' backs. They're going to try to shut him down. The rest of the team's going to have to step up. We've already seen that Ogden can do that. They have done that all season. And, Ogden, they rise to the occasion. I think that's what we've seen, right? When they play a really tough team, when they play a team where, they might be up against the ropes, they're a team that can band together and rise to the occasion. I think they're perfectly suited for a Nationals run.
Yeah, and then we go to the Utah Outliers. This team's confident. This team's different. This team wins games. This team has been the bell cow. And bell cow is such an interesting thing. Like I learned, Lucas, it's because you just put a bell on a cow. It's the cow you want people to see. It's a pretty cow. You put a bell on his neck and people go, oh, look at how nice this guy's cows are. And then you don't look at all the other cows. But you know what? This has been a bell cow for this division nonstop. William Cohen, man, he is absolutely a difference maker. A year 2003. Another guy who didn't have to score a goal to get him by the Idaho Falls Spud Kings, or as we know them, the Potato Zaddies. And Lucas, the Potato Zaddies, you picked them. And I didn't. And the Utah Outliers faithful asked me if I could leave you at home and not take you to Nationals after the pick. 17-1 Utah wins. This Outlier team is a different breed. They are a different level. They are fast. They are quick. They are physical. They get the net minding this year. It took a lot for us to not put them at number 1 in the power rankings coming into this Nationals.
Yeah, and I'll certainly kind of take my licks from the Utah Outliers staff there, because I love that the Ogden Mustangs players are individually calling you out on social media one by one. That really warmed my heart a little bit. I did pick the Spud Kings because I know how good the Spud Kings have made themselves and forged themselves into. And so the fact that Utah was able to handle them so confidently, right? The fact that Utah was able to put up as many goals on a good defense, that they were able to shut down a very competent offense, shows you just how good Utah is. That team has developed from a powerhouse in the beginning of the year to an absolute terrifying wagon right now. I would not be surprised to see them there on the second to last, even the last day with how well they play. And they're just another team that if they can stay disciplined, if they can stick to the plan has worked. No need to change it here.
Yeah, we look at this Nationals. That is your schedule. The seeding round, 2 days long. 16 teams will advance, 1 through 16. Each round of the 16-team playoff, single elimination, will be reseeded. If you go into it as a 16 seed and you beat the one on day 3, I better not hear a whine, a whimper, or a cry from anybody who's number 1. If you lose, you got to win games at Nationals to win a title. No excuses this year. Absolutely zero excuses. There are every game at Nationals in the Premier except for one will have national title implications. On day 3, our 17 and 18 seeds will get a Dan K Show Supercast. It's going to be the first game that morning. Scouts aplenty in the room. We're going to be feeding them breakfast, a little brunch from the Dan K Show. We're going to make some eggs Benny and serve it to all the scouts. We're going to be running around. Matt will be on the call. Tyler will be on the call. Dan will be on the call. Lucas will be on the call. We'll be breaking down a little scout cast style from earlier this year in the NCDC. Players, scouting reports, everything we can do to get college scouts to understand who are on those two sides. Other than that one game, every other game for the first time in Premier Nationals history will have a national title on the line. Your tiebreakers when we get to Nationals. Head-to-head first. Then we go points first, most points. 3 points for a regulation win. 2 points for an OT or shootout win. 1 point for an OT or shootout loss. You get a big 0 if you lose in regulation. We also talk about, so you go points, we go head-to-head. Our next tiebreaker is goals for divided by goals for plus goals against. What does that mean, Dan? That means defense wins championships. Defense first. You would rather win 1-0 than win 20-19. That's how that's going to work. The next tiebreaker, if you're tied in points, you haven't played each other. And you're also tied in the goals for, goals against divisional move there. We go to winning percentage in the regular season. We'll post that everywhere around the rink. We will have updates on standings every second, every moment, every fleeting glimpse you look. You will see every step you take, every move you make. Dan K will be watching you. Nobody's going to have information that's not coming from this guy. This is an awesome event. This is going to be incredible. Gentlemen, let's get to our parting words here for the folks. Let's get to our last thoughts. We've all got our final thoughts here, our final takes going into Nationals. Tyler, we'll start with you.
I think what you said, how every game has implications, is so important because you look back a few years ago, let's call a spade a spade. When one team was making it out of a group, if you lost your first game, the odds were slim to none. Things that have to go perfect have to fall in your way. Teams can start to control their own destiny. And another thought, too, just how loaded this league is. You were talking about some 1 seeds, who they have to play, who are 2s. You look at Metro, the Generals, Tampa Bay Juniors. The field is loaded. 1 and 2, it's not even that large of a disparity. So I think it's such an open field. And listen, I mentioned right away, it's March. I love a 116, 8-9, the whole breakdown. Absolutely love it. This is the month of brackets. I cannot wait to get my hands on the 116, the 8-9, 5-12, where the upset's going to be, who are the value picks. I'm excited.
It's going to be fun. We're going to have pregame shows, midday shows, postgame shows, 9 a.m., 3 p.m., 9 p.m., all throughout. All of us will be bouncing in and out. Guys are going to be going between rinks and games, jumping on the call with us for a few minutes to talk about what they just saw. We are going to bring you every ounce of coverage we can live from Hockey TV, the home for USPHL hockey, and a guy who's starting to become, almost a part of the Dan K Show at this point. He's been around us so long. Mr. Matthew Prieur, what are your thoughts here, other than that you eat Brussels sprouts now because of the Dan K show?
Yeah, you're gosh darn right I do. Um, no, I'm just really, again, it's such an honor and a privilege to be a part of my fourth USPHL Nationals with you guys. I really can't wait. And since I'm the old guy of this group, I'm gonna need a little help with you guys. If Metro and Toledo happen to play each other again, or Justin Kinville's worst nightmare, Metro Jets against MJDP, I'm gonna need someone to go back to the hotel, get my heart medication. Just promise me that you guys will do this for me.
100%. And the craziest thing is, you might see each other in the round of 16. It's no holds barred. Florida Heels could play Tampa. Wilkes-Barre could play New York Aviators. Toledo could play Metro. This is no more of this garbage of, I don't want to have to play so-and-so till I'm in a championship. You play the team in front of you. It's a national tournament. You want to be the national champion. You got to beat them at some point. Beat them right away. Beat them at the end. I don't care. It's like, how do you make Michigan cookies, gentlemen? You put them in a big bowl and you beat them for 3 hours. That's how you make Michigan cookies. Lucas, your final thoughts.
I really like the system that we have created here for the Premier, because it gets rid of the, as Dan just brought up, we don't want to play a team that we've already played or is too close to us. You know what that is? That's soft. So we got rid of it, right? You play who you play. If you want a better opponent in the seeding round, you win the games. If you don't want to play someone, then win more games than them, right? If you want to win some tiebreakers, well, you better beat some teams. The reason why I love the goals for divided by goals for plus goals against is because it rewards defense. Dan said 1-0 is better than 20-19. You know what else? 1-0 is better than 9-1, 9-2. No more will we reward blowouts, dunking on teams, right? When you feel like you have a mismatch. It doesn't help you anymore. You know what helps you? Keeping pucks out of the back of your net. Rewards goaltending, rewards fundamental defense. This is going to be, I truthfully think, one of the first, if not the first, no holds barred Premier National Tournament. You play to win the game. And hopefully, we'll see you on Tuesday.
My parting words for this one, number one, this tournament structure, I'm excited about it. It's something that I know Lucas and I spearheaded as two guys without a horse in the race. When coaches get together in a room and they start talking about tournaments, they tend to think about it competitively at times, right? How can I help myself? How can I benefit myself? What's my best nationals look like? This is a version made by two guys without a horse in the race, two guys that root for everybody in the country. What I want to talk to hockey fans about and what I always advocate for is more hockey, right? There were two options in this nationals: less hockey and everybody gets one, or more hockey and as many people as possible get two. We went with more hockey. Bring more teams to nationals, have more competition, and put everything on the line each and every night. It's going to be exciting. You look at the NCAA ranks, we need more hockey. I hear all the time, the USPHL is so big. What a problem. Well, guess what? If it was a problem, there wouldn't be filled rosters nationwide. If it was a problem, more hockey everywhere, in every league, every part of the country. If you grow the game, if you play more hockey, look at what the ACHA did. The ACHA created opportunities for Arizona State to have a hockey team. I'm still waiting for the SEC to get involved in this. You want to know what we just had? We just had an NC State outdoor ACHA hockey game with 30,000 plus in a football stadium. Shut up about less hockey. Shut up about less teams. And let's go do this thing. It's the USPHL Premier National Championships. Tyler Davey, Matt Prieur, Lucas Jones, Dan Kay. If you are not hearing one of us talk, you have gone to the wrong place, because we will be the ones on the air. You have greatly miscalculated where you were going. Thank you to our sponsors. We start with Body Trick. Penalty kill spray. You'll hear about it on every penalty kill at Nationals. The Body Trick penalty kill, brought to you by our friends at Body Trick. It's body-trick.com. Just a spray. Little spray takes the smell out of your hockey gear. Get yourself smelling nice yet again. How about our friends at Remastered Sleep, the water bottle of your dreams? I used to go on the road and Lucas would snore and I'd put the pillows to my ears like a cartoon character. Guy doesn't snore a peep anymore because he got his water bottle from Remastered Sleep. We can get you 10% off right now. Remasteredsleep.com. Dan K Show at checkout is your coupon code because I'm too dumb to remember the year. So they had to stop putting the year in the coupon codes. My apologies, Remastered Sleep. Next up, we talk about the Pueblo Bulls. Run with the Bulls, baby. Jerry Wilhite, what a job the Bulls did this season. The Cardiac Kids in the postseason. What an organization. Find out more about the Pueblo Bulls at dankshow.com. We also talk about GMU Sport. Pump yourself up. Get yourself all in the game. Get yourself ready to go try to outdrive Judd Ginther and Garrett Strode on a golf course with GMU Sport. Protein powder, pre-workout, everything you need. Still get 50% off right now. USPHL 050 at checkout for 50% off your entire order at GMU Sport. Go raid the closets, get everything you can get, and fill yourself up with the best in the game, GMU Sport. When Dan K's on the mic, it's always hockey night. Playoff time, baby. Let's get to it. USPHL National Championships start March 23rd.